G'day, citizens. Welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute this morning by Algared. How you doing, mate?
Well, I'm not sure whether you are Tom Cruise or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I
haven't decided yet.
So I had my
Um,
last eye surgery yesterday, and I'm feeling it from something chronic. So I've even
he's going,
got
I can't see. Oh, the lights, the lights.
my left eye is absolutely killing me. But it'll go down. They did say the last one was going to be the worst one, and they were right. It was, and yeah, I got a little bit of wet eyes and stuff like that. But yeah, I had to turn the bottom lights off. It was stinging like crazy, and even the top ones, like I can't look up at the top second screen. Like it's too much. So yeah, we will persist through today, and you'll probably have to do a lot of the reading of questions. So
You'll push through today.
Yeah,
I usually do, but yeah, I'm going to need to, because yeah, he's feeling it. He's yeah. So
yeah.
I did think just for the sake of our viewers, because I always say, you know, hello, G'day, nice day for fishing, ain't it? There you go. There's little Balin. Just so you know, I do have a little Balin there. Just to,
I got a trailer come up on my screen a couple of weeks ago about a game by those guys. So you better be playing it. They're making some kind of fishing game. So saw it and I went, oh god,
it's a nice day for fishing.
My algorithm has heard Algared. Oh no, why are you offering this to me? And he knows how much I hate it when he says that line, and yet he keeps saying it.
He does. He cringes again.
Oh, so cringe. At my mate DG360
I only type it.
He watches their videos all the time, and I'm like, I can't watch this anymore. Like as soon as he start watching them, I'm like, off. I just can't watch it anymore. Like between him and you, I'm done with those guys. They've cringed me out. So yeah. Speaking of cringe,
oh well, I'm sorry they're cringed out.
Speaking of cringe, did you catch the behind the ships yet, Algared?
No, I haven't. But you did mention that it was rather cringy at times.
Oh boy, you got a new contender for Paul Jones wannabe, 2025. Yeah, a couple of things that were said in that video. I was like, oh my god. Yeah, you can really tell that they knew they were scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find positive things to say about that ship. They mentioned the lights, the skins are usable on other ships. And it's just like, I think it looks really cool. Like that was the whole marketing thing, and they know what they've got on their hands. You want evidence, all you have to do is watch that advert, which is what they are. And it was, I have not cringed that hard in a long time. I think it's the worst kind of marketing material they've done since the Odyssey, quite honestly. I wish he had watched it beforehand.
Well, Owen did do the original Prowler, so he probably does have a bit of, at least certainly favourable thoughts or affinity with the Prowler and anything Prowler. So yeah, but I haven't seen it yet. But I do understand that the Prowler utility is just a cargo ship.
Well,
that just seems
a little weird.
A little weird. I do think that, as we've speculated, there could be a second, and one of the reasons I think that is just that they did two sneak peeks of a Prowler variant. I just can't see why you would only get one person to work on a medium-sized ship. So I think there's got to be another variant. And when I sit there and look at it, when so many people, like I was watching other streamers, right, normal people that I don't ever hear them comment about ships, and they were audibly confused, right? And when I'm hearing that other people are audibly confused or asking why, and they're asking the same basic level questions that I'm asking, which was my first thoughts, which was Grimm's first thoughts when I talked to him about it, and I'm sure you're going to have the same ones when we sit down and talk about it. I just went, yeah, they must know how bad that this is going to land. And if you were going to make that, like,
in the people I talked to, both two other variants came out very quickly that would be better than this. The most easily accessible and implementable right now would be a bombing variant because of the way the doors open. And the other one was the Titan dropsuit variant, which the more time I've spent thinking about that, I've grown and grown on, because it essentially, when I break it down, what you would require in a dropsuit, Titan suit dropsuit ship, it has everything. It has, you can carry 4 suits. It's relatively small. It's already a drop ship, so it's easily modifiable. But the two big things that it has that no other ship could provide is the air shields, which is absolutely, would just, the ability to just drop the Titan suits directly down through an air shield is amazing, right? That would just, you know, on chef's kiss. And then the grav plates, where it hovers above the ground. And when you and I, we went during the week, didn't we? When we went in and you and I looked at the Prowler, and it was really obvious that it's at that perfect height that it could just essentially drop the suits right out. And the only thing I said to you that they'll technically have to do is make a modified tractor beam to pick them up and put them back in, and design that in a cone, and you wouldn't need that in the first implementation. And then obviously a way to kind of essentially rotate the tractor beam so it can spin them around before it drops them. That was it.
The other thing that really does make the Prowler an ideal dropship is the way the wings come down and actually act as a shield for the people being dropped off.
Yeah.
So when you're dropping off your drop suits again, you'd have that cover from those wings. Now, one of the other things we did talk about when we were looking at the and we were discussing the leaked at that point utility.
Yeah.
Was the fact that as a cargo ship with stealth, it would be probably the premier smuggling ship.
Yeah.
But that's really its one ace in a hole.
But again, like I went through it with Lemming as well, and Space Tech, and there was a few other people on the channel when we were going through this. You keep going and putting up against the Raelian, which is also a smuggling ship, aka a blockade runner. This just would have been a smaller blockade runner, but you look at the price and it just does not line up. Like we were literally saying that this thing would have to be a minimum of $250 to even be in the running, right? And realistically, it's got to be cheaper than that. You gotta realize that, like, and you know this, right? So I'm telling you shit you already know. Raelian is currently $225. It's not out yet, right? So let's say it goes up by $50 and becomes $275. It's still got 10 times as much cargo. 10 times.
Yep.
And it does 4 crew. Yep. Now this does 2, so it's half that, right? You look at the other things like vultures versus reclaimers and stuff like that. The price is just not lining up. You know that as much as I do.
Yeah.
And you can alien tax. You can alien tax to the cows come home, but a Raelian is an alien ship.
We've known for donkeys that the Prowler is the most overpriced ship in the game, or one of the most overpriced ships in the game.
Yep.
Right. We've known that, and the fact they've got a Prowler variant really does kind of say we knew it was going to be in the same ballpark as the Prowler pricing, just because of the way CIG works. So as a cargo ship, that was it. And that's the biggest problem with it, the fact that it is so overpriced. But as a smuggling ship, as a small cargo ship for smuggling, I could see, even if you were looking at it as a lore aspect, I could see that working. Now, I've heard that it doesn't exist in lore. It's a ship that Esperia have created out of. I could see.
I'd have to give you the exact wording of it, but and again, I'm struggling to see it at the moment. But there's essentially along the lines. It talks about how they found these historic documents, but it's like it sounds like they guessed a lot of shit, right? There was some kind of variant of the Prowler, and they basically like tried to recreate it, but there is no official variant. I'd have to find the actual text, and as I said, I can't even read chat properly right now, so I just want to apologize to anyone that's saying hello or anything like that, because I can't see shit. I'm trying to keep my eyes closed as much as possible.
So based on what you're saying, They haven't found in game the lore. They haven't found any actual models of the ship, but they found the documents or the sketches.
Can someone
often find the stuff, and then they have to recreate.
Can someone send Algared the description thing that was from the Leaks Discord, please? If you've got it, so he knows what the fuck I'm talking about. The description where it says, look.
Yep. I'm hearing what you're saying.
Yeah, you just keep cutting me off like non-stop. That's fine. Go ahead.
But the thing is that as a small smuggling ship, certainly for the Second Tavaran War, where they're doing the guerrilla warfare and all the rest of it, a small supply ship that can sneak in would have been ideal and would fit. And we talked about this the other day. It would fit with the Tavaran approach to the war and approach to other things. It would also tie in with the way they, sneak saboteurs onto ships and other stuff. So I could see it working. I could see it being part of the Tavaran fleet lineup. But the price is always going to be a thing that kills Tavaran ships, just because they're just so overpriced. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like for all the other things, it's got to be that eventually stealth ships are going to have some kind of massive advantage. I think a part that what really works against the Prowler and its new sibling is essentially that it's just not a thing in game yet. And there are other ships that do speak to that stealth taxes, like things like the Terrapin and stuff like that. They all do go about it different ways. The only one that doesn't seem to have it so much is the Ghost, and apparently in game at the moment, from people I've talked to that own a Ghost, that thing is really good at the moment. You can really sneak up on a lot of PvE, people with a ship and do a lot of damage. Let's see. Right, the bot is up. So there was only one question though, at the moment. So please.
And that was Steve asking if the bot was up in real life.
Yes, the bot is up, so it hasn't crashed yet. So please, get your questions in. Algared's been doing going to be doing a lot of reading today, so I'll be. Oh man, I thought I was going to be fine, but man, this is stinging like a crazy bitch. But I will push through. So yeah, but my left eye is killing me. I'm trying to get it as closed as much as possible, but it's also my good eye, so it's hard to read. Right. Yeah.
So that document says exactly. By the way, I did get that description sent to me.
Okay, sweet.
And it says exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, cool.
So they haven't found it. They haven't actually found a model or Rex of that ship.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But they've got the documents and they're using the
UEC
stuff.
It's pretty short.
Stuff they've got from it.
Just read it out. It's pretty short.
So it says, while no known Tavaran-made examples of this historical ship exist, historians at Hesperia studied contemporary UPE military field reports to reconstruct this modified Prowler used by Tavaran military to deliver urgently needed supplies to the front lines. The Prowler Utility pairs tractor beams. Utility pairs a tractor beam with a fully accessible hold alongside the warship's still significant armaments to make the transfer of cargo in battlefield conditions a precise operation or precision operation, which is basically what I was saying.
Yeah. Well, they
may not have found a copy of the ship, but
yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
so you were going to say?
No, go ahead. Please.
But while they haven't found a wreck of that ship, while they haven't captured any of those of that ship, it fits in with that idea of using a stealth ship to bring in supplies, be able to get through any blockades of UPE ships, and do urgently needed supplies. So it does fit with what I was saying. The law would allow for that ship. My problem with it is the price of a ship and the price of a Prowler, and that's always been the problem. But does the ship look cool? Absolutely. Does it look gorgeous? Absolutely. For me, it's one of the most gorgeous ships in game, like the Prowler.
Well, along with its price, it's also got some really expensive skins. Like this skin, you can get a skin for $19 for a Hammerhead, and it's $16 for a Prowler. Like the skins just don't line up the ship for its size. Like you got to realize this is a medium ship that costs more than a capital ship in the Reclaimer. It's kind of ridiculous. The other thing I wanted to ask you real quick, because you weren't there for Alien Week, because I just did it without you, because I knew it was going to be late and I just let you go. So I actually was going to do it solo, but then Lemming was there, so I got Lemming to help me. Our essential takeaway, in short, was there's only really a couple of contenders of alien ships that are actually any decent. The Raelian, I'm going to butcher this, I know I am. The Raelian, the Sulian, and the Bannermansion Man, and then in the middle would probably be a little bit of the Defender, because it's got those 2 beds and 2 people type of light fighter thing, but it's very expensive, right? So, but everything else just becomes insane, over the top, not worth it. And that's what's so depressing about doing Alien Week, is I feel like I've almost never got anything good to say, because they're just so damn expensive.
The frustrating thing of Tavaran ships is they're not actually alien. They're built by Aspiria.
Yes.
And Aspiria is a human company. Right? They're using, yes, they are alien designs. Yes, they are alien ships, but they're not like the Banu ships, which the Banu build and build for human consumption.
Yeah.
They're not like the Xi'an ships, which are built for human consumption. They're not like the Blade, the Scythe, which is a full-on Bandle ship. They are made by a human company. So,
just real quick, Dafty Digit does say that there as well. It's a really good point. You also can't rent them, which really, makes them. You very rarely see them unless when there's a free fly. When's the last time you saw a Prowler besides the one you and I pulled out the other day?
Never.
Yeah, I
can. The last time I pulled one out before then.
That's basically when I see them. When I pull one out at a free fly and stuff like that. But I never ever see someone flying it. I know one guy that I've seen flying it, and he flew it during a free fly, but that was like a couple of years ago. Yeah, they're definitely going to be.
Like the Prowler.
They're definitely dropping into an earning game ship, 100%. Which is a shame. They need to figure out a way at CIG to undo bad pricing, right? And I don't again, if it's after 30 days, then people should just be like, and I don't know how they do it, right? So there's obviously some legality around it, right? That you and I don't understand, lawyerese or whatever you want to call it. But wouldn't it be really cool if they could, essentially lower the price of the Prowler, and then just whatever the difference is, like say they dropped it to $300 as an example, right, to match the new Prowler Utility. How would and just give them $140 in credits? Would people accept that, or would people cry foul and want their actual physical money back? And I think that's the thing. They don't want to change prices because they're paranoid that people are going to request refunds, and they don't have that money because it's been spent on the game, right? And that's what they can't afford. Right, so I think they're too scared to change the price because people will physically ask for money, and I don't know. Like the only way you could get around that is some kind of like, we will give you credit. We're going to lower the price, but everyone that owns one has to agree to take credit. And I think that's the only way it would work. Some kind of legal form that you've got to sign, and everyone would have to sign it before they did it that owned a Prowler. I'm just trying to, and it's probably too much work. And that's why they've just never ever done it. Like I can't think of a, I'm not in that legal wheelhouse, and I know you're not either. But is that kind of your thinking as well, Algared? If you had to think about it briefly, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on the spot. I think the first thing to say is that there's no easy answer for the problem of the overpriced ships. They could do what they did with when they had stuff, the old component store.
Can you read that one by Monster Avery? He's usually got some good hot takes on Twitch there. He's saying something about it. I can't quite make it out because of my eyes. You've got Twitch up.
Okay. I don't have Twitch up, so I'll go and have a look at what he said. He said might also be beams with the might also be lasers. So it might also be lasers with.
No. It's might be issues. Might also be issues giving any credit.
So it's
because of CCU.
Yes.
Chaining as well.
cetera,
I got a CCU Prowler to $180. So would I get any credit or no? $180. Damn, you did well, mate. You did well.
Yeah.
$180. I would consider
there's
that.
No easy answer to what we're doing.
Well, it's like you and me with the purchase. We both think it's too expensive, but we both roughly got one for around $300. That's what the purchase is worth.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it's the same thing there.
I got mine at $295. I'm happy with that.
I would take a Prowler at $180. I really would.
Yeah. Prowler $180, $200.
Yeah.
Yeah, good price.
Yeah.
I could see the Prowler maybe being $250 because it's a drop ship and it's got so many seats in it.
So Tomo is one of those people. So Tomo's in Twitch chat. Tomo was on his stream yesterday, absolutely baffled. It's the way he was looking at. He couldn't understand why the ship was so expensive, and no offense to Tomo, right? I'm not saying this to be offensive, Tomo, so don't take it that way. But the way he was just so simplistically baffled, I was like, that's how I know this ship has landed like a lead balloon. Because most people look at it and don't understand why it's so overpriced. Now, if you can't sell your good ship, your bad ships well, how are you going to sell your good ships well? You know what I mean? Like, it just shows that there's a gap in the information.
Yeah. Look, I struggle to work out why the Prowler is so overpriced for what it is. But I understand why this is overpriced because it's a Prowler variant.
Yeah.
But it's still overpriced, and it's just I struggle with that.
Well, look, I asked in the comments yesterday. The buyer's guide will probably come out on our Tuesday, there Monday, and the up over. But I asked in the comments, and I'd ask that at chat now too. If you want to get some statements in or anything like that, I'd love to know two things. What the fuck is this for? Right? Because what they stated, which was essentially flying along next to a whole sea and plucking cargo off it, which is 1, fuck all cargo, 2, stealth not in, and you can't actually pull other people's cargo off at the moment unless it's unlocked. And so they were describing gameplay features that don't exist. And 2, do you really feel that there are some other variants waiting in the wings? Because that's the only saving grace that I have. It's the I'm like this. Like, you really didn't make a ship this bad. And I was saying to you before the show, I am literally over the clones. The only new ship we've got in 12 months. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I probably am going to get this wrong, right? Starfarer and Golem. Starfarer is one of the worst design ships they've ever done. I don't care if you love it. I'm sorry, but it's just really badly designed. Golem.
You're not meaning the Starfarer. You're meaning the
Star Lancer. Sorry, Star Lancer. Yeah, the Star Lancer. Really terribly designed. It's really bad. Maybe when the build comes, it'll have a saving grace, but I won't believe it. And when I talk about design, I'm talking about not its function, its design. It just has a lot of wasted space. It's up there with 600i problems, right? So one terrible ship, one really great ship in the Golem, and then everything else are just clones. And if they'd retained their veterans, they wouldn't be going through this having to retrain people. Their problem. We would have got unique ships all the way along instead of clones. And it just feels cheap, and I'm over reviewing clones. I want that uniqueness back. I got excited for the Golem. It's just starting. Look, I haven't got excited for a ship since literally, well, the other one I guess is the Atlas, right? But now you've cloned the crap out of the Atlas several times, so it's lost that appeal for me as well. But I know you're going through a staffing problem, but you created the staffing problem because you didn't retain your veterans. Lesson learned, I hope, because if we've got to go through another 18 months of these side grades, I am done. I'm just cooked. I can't put up with these. And I was saying to Algared before the show, it's the long-term effect, right? Because a Fortune is just never going to feel that good anymore next to a Prospector. We would have had a unique Fortune when it came along, not a side grade clone. And they can create all these lore reasons and stuff like that. It's the vibe, it's the feel though. I'm in my Fortune. I don't feel like it's unique anymore. I feel like it's a rip-off. And it's the same thing with all of these ships. The
Fortune is not a unique ship. The Prospector is not a unique ship. And we were told that in lore, and even when they built the ship. The frame of a Prospector is going, let's see what we can do. Let's build a frame that we can turn into anything else.
Yeah.
and so that works, right? Any variant you do on that works.
Again,
the problem is you do it with other ships that don't.
Yeah, it's they can lure it to the cows come home, right? It's the perception, it's the takeaway, it's the feel, right? And that's my problem, right? They just all feel like, and I think the other one that I said to you was the Paladin. The Paladin is probably the most aggressively modified one, but it still is a Valkyrie, right? And when I saw the Paladin, I said, remember I said to you the very first time, I said, this feels a little cheap because it's a thing. Well, I feel that with all of them, and I'm just. I haven't brought it. The only one I've even looked at that I would consider a clone is the Paladin. Everything else, I just was like, I've got no interest, and I'm wondering how much like again. I know I'm asking chat and I can't even read chat. I'm sorry, Laser O surgery can't help it. It's like, how do you feel? Did you really buy any of these clones? Because again, everyone that's here now, we're entering that lull period. This is a quiet fucking time, right? The people that are here, you are the dedicated. That's how this goes down, right? Once Invictus passes, it goes to quiet time. So if you're here, you're studying into that group of people that really give a shit about this game. And as someone that gave a really shit about the game, I want to know. Actually, let's do a fucking poll. Fuck it. Did you buy a clone? Did you, and you know what I mean. Did you buy any of the clones? And I'll do that over to Twitch as well. God, I cannot see for shit with these glasses on. I feel so rude, but trust me, guys, my eyes are stinging like crazy. You would not want this effect right now. Yes, and two. Right, poll going out. Find out. Are you interested in this, Algared, or am I ranting? I'm probably ranting.
You're ranting.
I've got to vent though. If I don't vent, it bottles in.
You're ranting. I'll just say that.
Yeah. 69% of people brought clones. Holy shit.
One thing that also stands out for the Prowler and the new variant is it's still got its 4 shields. There's very few ships that still have, it's got 4 size 2 shields. Now, we were looking at the Prowler the other day and you went, great, that's a lot. The Redeemer has, what is it, 6 or 5?
6 size 2s. Yeah.
6 size 2s.
But apparently they're updating the old Prowler to match, so it's nothing anymore. They just
but
what do you call it? A balance pass or whatever. So,
yeah, but 6 size 2 shields, okay, on a gunship, great. On a dropship, 4 size 2 shields, not too shabby. 4 size 2 shields on a cargo ship. That's fairly good.
They also did down take the size 5s down to size 4s, and they did add a tractor beam. The most unique thing about this ship really is the tractor beam. It is the best placed tractor beam to steal cargo in movement or in transit or whatever you want to call it. But there are other ships that could pull it off. I actually think the C1 could get away with it. And I'm sure I could think of other ones. Like one of the other ones we mentioned was the raft. You could possibly do it on the raft because of where it's positioned on the raft. It wouldn't be as easy as doing it on this, but again, they've got so much more cargo to work with. And again, that stealth element, you're asking us to buy, like, they literally said they are not going to make any more ships that don't have their gameplay. There is no stealth gameplay. It's not in yet. It doesn't exist. Until that's actually a thing, I've got no way to actually kind of review this ship properly. So yeah. Okay, we're at about 65%. How many votes are on that?
It's still a cargo ship.
Yeah, what's that? 62 votes on YouTube. So that's almost like so close to like actually 63 people that actually damn, it's crazy to me. And then what do we got over here on Twitch? Twitch is a bit more sane. They're 50-50. All right, now they're 55-45. So they said no. Don't YouTube, don't tell me Twitch are the same ones for for a change. What the hell's going on there? I don't know. I just, yeah. And again, like, I'd almost want to like sit down and ask you all individually. Like, I wish I could put it up. Like, I really could say which clone was it that you brought. But I've got a feeling it's probably only one of them. You know, and I'm not going to go into detail and rant too deep because I know it'll annoy Algared. But
watching the chat, people have said someone said they bought CCUs or upgrades to them.
Yeah, and there's no I've got no problem with that. It's just that, like, maybe I asked the wrong question. Maybe the question should have been, do you feel like these clones are growing tiresome or something like that? That's what I should have asked. Are you over the onboarding ships? That would have been a better question. I'm gonna do another one. Sorry. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, Algared. Sorry. And then I'll be quiet, I promise. Are you over the...
That'll be a day.
Oh, yes. Leave me alone, you bitch.
See how mean he is to me?
I can't even see you being mean to me. What are you talking about? All right. Doing all this by touch. It's really difficult.
I'm not mean to you.
Oh, shut the fuck up. You give it as well as you take it. You just play Mr. Innocent while we're on chat. I know you too well. Right. Are you over onboarding ships? Question mark. And then
what?
Yeah. What? Mr. Innocent? Yeah. You're playing to it big time, buddy. I know you too well. Right. All right. Doing it again. What are you laughing at? All right, there we go. Now that might have been, I should have asked that one to start with. All right, now let's see. Maybe it's me, right? But I don't know. Man, YouTube paid me today. Okay. Oh, they don't give a shit. Okay, it's about 60% of you don't give a shit. Right, okay, fine. Maybe I'm carrying on like a pork shop for nothing then. I'm just curious. You know, I know there's like real life connotations to it, but again, if you're building things virtually, why not make them bespoke? That's kind of where maybe there's a bit of a split issue. It's about 50% on both. That's okay. So it is a split issue. I'm not completely out of touch. I feel like
I think there is a problem. Like, am I tired of seeing the Raven and the Firebird and the people want a ship and you get a ship that's kind of similar but it's an offshoot. It's not the same ship that people want.
Yeah, that's what I mean by onboarding. Yeah.
Do I understand why they're doing it? Yeah. Do I understand why they're doing the onboarding tasks and the different onboarding tasks people are doing? Absolutely. Do I dislike the variants? No, because the variants are something we know that CIG had wanted to do from the year dot. You know, that have lots of variants of different ships to give people choice. Am I over inflated prices of some of these ships? Absolutely. And that's the thing that is frustrating. You shouldn't need, if you want a Prowler or the utility, you shouldn't need to have to do an upgrade and a war bond upgrade and do that to bring the price of a ship down so that at a reasonable level. You shouldn't have to do that with the Perseus to bring it down to a level where it's worthwhile having. Like Badgers was a classic example. Absolutely love the crap out of the Perseus.
Yeah.
Would not buy it because it was so overpriced. And that's the problem most of the stuff they've got. But yeah, we made a rod for our own back.
Yeah, so it's about
because we bought everything they put out.
Around about 57% if I do split the difference between Twitch and YouTube. So yeah, I'd say most people are a little bit over it.
Yep.
The other thing I'm gonna do is, because the bot is crashing again, is I'm gonna have to do a Q&A because we've got a few questions there, but restarted the bot.
No.
Yeah, I don't, and I don't think
Yep.
Piggles is around to fix it. So I don't know. It's crashing so much recently. I'm gonna have to reach out to Piggles and get some help. But yeah, it's around, as I said, about 57% on both of them. So I'm gonna start a Q&A.
Now, while you're doing that, Commander Arcade on YouTube says that the prices have been out of whack since the jump. Now, if you're talking about the 890 jump, the 890 jump when it came out was actually nicely priced.
If you're lucky enough to get one,
up in price, yeah. If you were lucky enough to get one when it was first concepted, it was $600. It was lovely, perfect.
Yeah.
But when it ballooned out into a full-on capital ship and got capital ship pricing, and became $990, I think, or $980. That's when it, I think, became obnoxious. And the fact that, because it's not $980, because it's not over $1,000, it doesn't get LTI. Man, that was charge an extra $20 and give people who buy that ship LTI.
Yeah.
I'm sure they wouldn't mind having that guaranteed. Yes, I've got my ship. It's safe. I'm not going to lose it if it blows up. And even that's not as big a thing these days either. But yeah, just that.
All right. Do you want to do? We do have a few bot questions there about.
We do have a few bot questions, so we can start going through those.
And the Q&A ones are coming in, but I won't be able to. The downside of the Q&A is I can't see YouTube chat at all. Once that starts.
Can you, by chance, do me a favor and make those bot questions a little bit bigger so that I can read them?
What do you mean bigger?
If possible.
What bot?
Increase their font size. The Q&A.
You mean those
ones
ones
got coming in? I can.
If you've got
ones,
if
I
you've
can see them, but the font is small.
Yeah, I can't make them any bigger. But if you've got YouTube open, they come up across the bottom of YouTube. So when I activate them, you'll be able to see them come across the bottom. And I can probably read those ones if I have to. But yeah, I don't think there is a way out for me to make the font bigger. Zoom in. Yep. Oh wait, maybe I can actually. Wait, tell me if they're bigger. This is actually getting bigger. There you go. Can you read those ones?
Yep, they are bigger. Yep, they are bigger, and I can read them.
Cool. Right. Well,
all right.
Do those ones first.
Yep, I'll do the ones from our Q&A first, and then I'll come across to those ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So Stimpack Steve had a question for us, which is actually the first one that comes up there as well. He says, "I have 2K in-store credit. Is it a good idea to spend it on hull limited ships as you can't CCU into them, or you can't upgrade into them? If there's a hull limited ship that you want."
For me, it always comes down to what you really want to do in the game. And if you've already spent the money, it's really about how do you best spend it for yourself. And that's what Fix My Fleet is. There is no perfect way to spend the money, right? You're essentially, we're all trying to figure out how these ships are going to be in the future. Prowler's a really good example of that. You know, we're all sitting here scratching our head going, what the hell? It is literally taking a gamble. We have all gambled on this game. And I think that kind of answers the best I can. Steve, I will happily sit down with you.
What's the anti-gambling campaign they have in Australia? You win some, you lose more.
I don't know. I don't watch the Boomer Box anymore, Algared. You're on your own in that one, old man. Yeah, but Steve, reach out to me.
I get indoctrinated by it because of
reach out to me on Discord, Steve, and I'll happily go through it with you. By the way, Stimpack Steve was the person that lent me his laptop when I was in the UK, so I'll happily return the favor, Steve. So just reach out to me on Discord, and I'll sit down with you and ask you some questions and do the intervention. And help you get that sorted.
Ask the usual questions we ask. What do you want? What are your favorite game styles? And then it's a matter of looking at what ships you're on that fit into that. And we'd normally say go big and earn down. And I've got to admit, look, I've been flying the Reclaimer for the last week, doing it solo. I wouldn't recommend doing it solo normally, but you're doing it solo, you can still do it. It's frustrating at times. But I'm doing salvage. I'm not even selling it at the top price. I'm just going back to Lawville and selling it at Lawville dirt cheap compared to other places. I've still made $1 million.
Yeah,
and I'm doing tiddly squat. I can't do that on the vulture. The vulture's just too small.
Yeah, it shows you the whole thing of what we've been saying. Algared is struggling in a reclaimer on his own, but he's making enough money that he could easily take that money and then go buy a vulture or a ship underneath. We've been saying this for years.
But
who's in the pudding?
But going from the vulture up, I can still make money on the vulture, but it just takes so much time, and you got to do so many trips, and it's just hard.
I'd probably say, like, if I was a new person coming in and I had more money than sense, probably still recommend they get one big ship and not go any further than that, and just side grade down everything. So you've just got at least got one ship that you can take and earn everything underneath. But realistically, you don't need more than the starters package, especially now when there's so many people like all us veterans that have got like fleets of these things.
50 billion ships.
Yeah. And I don't think until the universe gets, starts growing beyond 5 systems, are we going to start to have those teething issues, right? Because like if you've got 5 systems and you've got an org with 5 Krakens, well, that's a Kraken in every system. But as soon as you start to go beyond that and you've got to travel multiple, like look at it this way: how annoying is it right now to go from Pyro to Stanton to go get a ship or something like that? It's a pain in the ass. We just reclaim it because it's that annoying. I'd rather wait 40 minutes than travel for 40 minutes, So, but it's going to be that way, like where, oh shit, I'm going to lose all my guns and stuff, so I have to travel 4 systems over and 4 systems back, or Algared can just pull his out. And it's like, you know what I mean? So that I can see it's a convenience problem. I think that's going to be the biggest problem with this game going forward. Is just time management is going to be a pain in the ass. It's my biggest concern because I don't. How many people do you know, especially those that are not retired, right? They're actually working people, that they've got more than 2 hours on a weekend to play a game? And how often are they going to play that game where of those 2 hours, an hour and a half of it is just getting to where they're going and getting back? You know what I mean? It's got a real time problem.
I was talking to someone. I was talking to one of the guys as I was playing the other day, and it was frustrating, especially at the moment where you'll get crashes, and you've got to go back and it saves, you don't lose stuff, but it's still, I've got to run back to the ship, and I've got to go back to this, and I've got to do those types of things. Do make it really hard. And if you're playing and you've got, I'll play and I'll settle down for a gaming session and I get called to help out with stuff, and then I've got to stop. And
I think that's going to be the real advantage of beds. Just being able to pick up and go. I want
to go, right, I need to log off.
Yeah, I'm logging out right here in my prospector, come back a week later, back in my prospector, just mining my rock again. Okay, I'm done. I go to the refinery. All right, I'll log out there. Next time I come back, I'm in the ship again. I go, do you mean just to be able to stop and go? That's what beds need to be.
And that's what beds were originally supposed to be.
Yeah.
The fact that you could log out safely and then come back later and pick up where you left off.
But they're now talking about you can log out anywhere and you'll be able to come back. Because I think they've realized the problem. And once it's like that, what do beds become then? Just a buff tool. Yep. And again, like as someone that plays the game, my biggest annoyances in the game right now are things like drinking and eating. Like they're just a pain in the ass. That like with all the shit on top of what I've got to deal with, I don't want to deal with that crap. It's just, it doesn't need to be there. It's not a fun activity. If it's giving me a buff, not a negative, I've got no problem with that, right? So if I make it so I eat a sandwich and I can run faster for 10 minutes, totally fine, right? But I just don't think it should have, like, we've already got too much negative shit in this game. And I'm talking about for now, if they get all the systems in and it kind of works together, cool. But there's now and there's later, and now it sucks.
It sucks. But you actually look at the foods, and you'll get foods that give you a buff to hydration, a buff to disease resistance, a buff to
Algared, I can't even eat
stamina.
pizza.
So they actually, sorry?
I can't even eat pizza in the game.
Right, so there are, yeah, okay, you can't eat pizza. That'll just increase your need for hydration because it's going to be salty and horrible. But there are the different foods you can actually see that they've actually got, when you look at them, bonuses that they do or effects they have on your person. Is that actually functioning at the moment? I'm not sure. But that's certainly something that is possible. Moving on. Mareki has a question. They said, what stock components does the Prowler Utility come with? It comes with 4 shields. I think they are, I'm not sure whether they're, because I haven't had a chance to have a look at it. I do know it's got 4 shields. I do know it's got, I think 2 coolers, just like the Prowler. I think it's got the 1 power plant, and that's all I can go on based on what I remember from the Prowler. Because when we're looking at it, certainly the front section, where there are three drop seats plus the pilot and the gunner, that section seemed, from what we're seeing on the list, that seemed untouched. But the back section where the other 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 seats were, had been ripped out and gutted.
The only difference I got in that front section once I actually got in it was they do remove one of those stand-up seat things, and it's the one closest to the ladder, and they put in storage areas. There's 2 external storages being put in. That's the only difference.
So there's still 3 seats at that front section.
Yeah, you give up a standing seat for internal storage, which obviously means you can switch it back for the Prowler and have 4. Which is so. One of the things we were looking at was if this was a Titan drop suit, it would need somewhere for the pilots to sit. Well, if it's got 4 stand-up seats, which the default Prowler does have, that's all you need. That's all you need. You know, they don't need guns because there's guns there's guns on the Titan suits. So all they need to do is literally stand up, get in the suits, drop out, and go. And again, you got to remember, Titan suits have their own storage and stuff like that as well. So if you want to put food and stuff in there, you can do it all in that. You don't have to put it on the ship.
You'd also notice that on those stand-up seats on the Prowler, next to them is a gun rack. So and as you said, you don't need that. You can actually save space. So as a Titan drop suit ship, like when we saw those 4 seats up the top, that was like. Yeah, like that seemed to me like,
I have to clarify,
almost a tip of the hat.
He means up the front. He doesn't mean up the top. He means up the front.
Up top. Sorry. Up the front. Okay. Just for you, up the front.
The top is
up
the top.
Stairs.
The top is, because Algared kept saying up the top because it was up these little stairs. But the top is the top as in the second floor. So I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
And I wasn't in the absolute top. The ultimate top.
But you get what I mean, like you got to clarify.
Oh, up the stairs.
Yeah. So you mean up the front? That's what I said. I said to him, I said, you got to say up the front.
Up the stairs. Okay.
Yeah. But so up in that area. Continue.
But you've got you had 4 seats, and we were thinking that space at the back would be ideal for 4 drop suits or drop Titan suits, and then you go up and you see there are 4 seats there. It's almost perfect.
Yeah,
it really does lend itself to being that, and
there's no other.
Does that mean they're going to do that?
There's no other ship with the grav plates and the air shields, and that combo.
And the way that bottom opens up, it is an ideal ship for being a Titan ship, a Titan suit drop ship. And if I'm going, look, could I see the Tavaran using it? Yes.
Especially with the hover ability, like the ability to hover on those grav plates, it just makes so much sense because there's not many other ships that are going to give you that clearance for the suits to drop out unless you're really dropping them from way up high. And again, well, you tell me from a realism perspective, Algared, I don't think, not every Titan suit does have those, jetpack things. So
well, we've only got 1 with them at the moment.
Exactly, but you get my point, right? Like you're not going to be dropping them all from like 50. Today we're jumping from 50,000 feet. Like you're not going to want to do that with all of them. You're going to want to drop some of them into combat because they might need something else in return, like storage or something like that. So you work that all through. It's a ship we need, and it probably, we probably don't need it until we have more Titan suits. I've heard people that's the thing, we don't need it yet. I've heard that a lot. We do technically have the Atlas, right? And we're probably more than likely going to get other Titan suits down the line. But it's a really easy ship for them to make because, again, like I said in the buyer's guide for the Prowler, you could technically get away with doing this on Valkyrie and Asgard, but they have to land and then you have to walk out. We don't actually have the drop and go ship, and that's what we're talking about here in this.
Yeah, and that's what this ship really does seem to lend itself to. would be really peeved if they bring out a variant of this as a Tavaran Titan drop suit ship and don't bring out Tavaran Titan suits.
As I
that
said,
would suck.
Every time you bring that up, I'm fully on board with massive bird Titan suits. Bring it on. The emu. I want it now. Very plucky.
I want an emu.
Yep. Massive.
Or an ostrich. Or an cassowary.
Yes, the cassowary. Yeah.
The cassowary.
Oh, do you remember in that Spider-Man movie with the rhino, and the rhino was a mechanical suit, but a cassowary? So you put it on.
Yep,
and you ram people with a massive cassowary horn. That'd be funny as. It's a
heavy version.
The Van Duel Titan suit. They ram people with their horn. Dear.
It's a cassowary versus the emu. Emu's the medium Titan suit. The cassowary is a heavy Titan suit.
And like in the episode I did with Essay, and I know Essay was in chat earlier. There's some really cool ideas you can do around Titan suits that you can't really do with anything else. Like, we went into some really cool concepts about like a melee Titan suit that essentially has it takes the phallic shield idea, but it makes it like a holographic emitter. So it's not cloaking, but if it's looking directly at you, you can't see it. So it's actually got a stealth up on you.
Maybe Trip is saying Tsunobi ship is telling us to have sexual relations with the emu, given the cassowary.
Right, okay. Well, again, it's not cloaking, because if I'm just looking at Algared and all of a sudden, Astropub or Space Tomato turns up and they can see me, I'm done. So it only makes it really effective against singular targets. It makes it like an assassination Titan. And again, got a melee weapon, I've got to know exactly where to stab their Titan suit to disable it. So I've got to know the mechanics and the components of that Titan suit's makeup, and know that, say I've got to hit, it's a higher class Titan suit, so I've got to hit the battery, or is it a Drake Titan suit and I've got to take out that specific cog,
the gears, or
whatever, So I'm going to know how to disable it. So it's both skill, risk versus reward. But if I pull it off, it's really gratifying. And again, some of those suits will work really well for reconnaissance too. Just sitting there and observing and being able to report, because again, if I'm sitting back on a hill, I can put the whole base in that peripheral of that essential thing. But again, if someone just pulls out a thing like a heat sensor and starts looking around based on heat, they'd see me. So you get what I mean? Like, so you can't perfectly cloak every single time. You can try a different vision mode, so to speak, and all of a sudden, why is there a guy sitting there on the hill?
Yeah, unlike Star Wars, where cloaking disappears completely. Not Star Wars, Star Trek, where cloaking disappears completely. Star Citizen never had cloaking in that sense. It was stealth. You hide yourself from the different views that can be seen, and you can't hide yourself from everything.
I could also, but I could see that idea in a reconnaissance ship as well, like a little small, like a modified Herald or something like that, where it just like it's a mobile ship that's really mobile, that can move sideways, because you obviously have to be able to strafe to pull this thing off, right? So a Herald wouldn't work, actually, right now I think about it. Maybe like a Scout or something, but it essentially looks at you, and you can't see it.
Yeah, look, I could see, the Cartwell or the Vision ships having their Scout ships having that. I could see Tavaran ships being very much like that, mainly because that was one of the things they excelled in. They excelled at stealth technology. They excelled at shield technology. They excelled, when we were still using heavy plates of armor because we couldn't do shields. They were doing shields and swinging a heavy phalanx shield to the front where they needed it. So our air shield technology is the spoils of war.
Yeah.
In game. So yeah. SA has a question. When do you think the Icky will land?
It'll come with a patch next week. It's in the patch, and whenever that goes live, it kind of shows you how little they gave shit about the Prowler either, because they didn't push the patch out. You've actually got to if you buy a Prowler, you've actually got to copy your account to the PTU to get access to the ship. When's the last time you've ever had to do that, Algared? 3 years ago type of thing? Yeah, it's been a long time. A lot of new people. I bet you there's at least there's at least one guy that had more money than sense that went out and bought a Prowler and he couldn't get access to his Prowler. Because where are those instructions? You know what I mean?
Yep. So,
next week.
Next question. The K9 Music says, when is the buyer's guide coming? Next week.
Yeah, it'll be out, as I said, Monday.
It's done. It'll be released.
Yeah,
Monday or so.
Monday your time, Tuesday our
time. Mike G, MD says, are there any more carriers rumoured for or planned? I'm looking forward to something between the size of a Liberator and a Kraken.
I think with my rant earlier, I think what I'm saying is a lot of those new ships are just on back burners. That's why we haven't seen many concepts, because they're all on back burner, making sure these people are up to par to be able to make them.
We know there is talk. Well, we know there is the Pegasus, but that's a fairly heavy carrier. I'm not sure if it's smaller or bigger than a Kraken. Would I like to see something in between there? Yeah. Is it needed at present? Probably not.
Yeah. Last concept we got was the Paladin. That was last year. We haven't got a concept this year. So, yeah.
Yep. So I wish I could give you more of an answer, Mike, but at the moment we have to say, I'll say probably there'll be something between a Liberator and a Kraken. But that's about as far as I can go. Unfortunately, Crusader Maximilian says, in the leak there were 7 paints, but only 3 paints plus Alien Weak paint have been released. Does this hint to you of another Prowler variant?
Possibly.
That would indicate probably it would be more fuel to the fire.
And some of the
more rope to hang ourselves with.
And some of the paints did not look exactly the same as they did in the leaks. So they were updated after the leaks did them in a next patch, when the leak people didn't chase up on that. Because I can tell you right now, I looked at skins on the images, and then I literally had them side by side, and they were not the same. So yeah.
So that could mean CIG decided, no, those skins don't work, and ditch them. It could be, could be there for another variant.
The placeholders went in before the finals were put in is the most likely.
Yeah.
Those. Yeah.
So, take 6 meters of rope, add another meter, and you can use that to hang yourself. That type of thing. We've got the information. We're guessing, and we take the best information we can and make our guesses. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, and sometimes it's just we were hopeful. The Glass Sword says, do you think some of these ships are just fluff stuff, or fluff ships, and good for the long run to flesh out content to play for rather than just purchase? Yes. Some of them are just ships that you would play for an earning game. I think that'd be ideal.
Like the example I'd look at here is the Fortune and the Golem, right? Golem is a unique ship. It's good. The Fortune, you put that next to the Vulture. Why would I want that? There's things that I literally can do on the Vulture that I'm not sure I can do on the Fortune, like the spinning drum on the Vulture for the processing. There is no way to process on a Fortune right now, and you got to remember the salvage we have right now is temporary. They've stated that. So unless you're going to bring some kind of how do you cut things apart on a vulture? Well, you use blast charges, right? And they're not in the game yet. How do you do that on a fortune? Now, I've heard nothing about blast charges for the fortune. I've heard nothing about how it's going to cut the ships apart. And as I said, it's got no way to process stuff. So does that instantly mean that the fortune is just automatically under the vulture because all it can do is strip? We don't know.
It may well be.
So again, they've sold these ships without the information. And again, on top of that being side grays, it just bad taste in my mouth.
Indeed. And Death 10R69 says, isn't this ship also a ground vehicle? So wouldn't it be kind of like the largest ground vehicle cargo ship? No, we have right now.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
To make it like a vehicle.
Yeah, at 32 SCU, it's the biggest carrying vehicle. Yep, I'll give you that. You win.
So, but it's
also the most expensive vehicle in the entire game.
Yes. Yes, also the most expensive ground vehicle in game.
Previously $140, now it's $300.
Well, technically, given that you've got cargo, does the Prowler have any cargo capacity at all?
The utility? No, I don't. I think it's got some internal storage.
The most expensive troop carrier.
It might have some internal storage, but again, I haven't gone back and checked that it's been updated. So yeah, as when we pulled it out, it was the first time you and I had pulled it out in probably 2-3 years. It's been a really long time.
So the Prowler is the most expensive troop carrier in game for going along the ground with its grav plates, and the Utility is the most expensive cargo carrier vehicle in game. Yeah. So that's those bot questions done.
Mm-hmm. Right, on to the Q&A ones. All right, so...
Yep.
I think, well...
Shinobi Trips one has been done. Stimpack Seas has been done.
Yeah, so it's this one here. So, select question. By the way, we've only got 6 questions left, so please get your questions in, or I can go back to bed. That'd be great. Right, when you're ready, Algared, go for it.
Okay, so he says, when do you think the Ironclad will drop? Yep, I had it.
Oh, sorry.
When do you think the Ironclad will drop? And what do you think the full price will be at release?
Usually 10 to 20%. So what is it, 450? So I'd go to 500. The other one is, God, what's the other one? Is the other one 500? Or it's 5 something, man. I'd have to look up the assault. Basically $50. Like $50 on top of it is what I think.
So add 10 to 20%, and that's usually the price increase. If it's a really bad ship, the price increase is less when it goes live, and if it's a really good ship, the price increase goes up to more. There have been some outliers where the price has gone beyond that. I think particularly the Hull C was one that comes to mind. But generally, it's 10 to 20%. When do we think it'll come?
535?
Based on the 18 months of...
What was it? So they're 535.
Yep.
535. Yeah, that's going to be like 580, somewhere in there. 580, 590. That's interesting because that's a good price point because we currently only have the Liberator at 575. That makes sense though.
Yeah, personally I'd like 550 because that's a nice round figure. But
I'm talking about for CCUs.
20% adds.
I'm talking about for CCUs because
because
at the moment we just don't have that in game right now. Anything that's a good price point.
But the 20% price increase does give that. In terms of when, based on the 18 months development time that we were told that all ships have,
it clearly was paused though because they've had staff problems. That's my takeaway now. And again, they're just doing the kit bashing stuff now in the grey box area. And then you got to go back and you got to texture it. You got to make sure. It sounds like to me that it's only about possibly halfway through. You could get it by the end of the year, but I think the Persis is in front of it now, from what I'm reading and seeing. So I'm probably, if I was more of a realist, I'd probably say Invictus next year. Unfortunately, if I'm being real.
Like, we can only go on what we've been told in terms of development time, and it's 18 months development time, not 18 months calendar time. And that's the thing with
it basically means 18 months. 18 months can be the shortest period of time, but also you can pause it. So it still only takes 18 months, but if you pause it, obviously it takes longer. So
it takes longer. Like I said, development time versus calendar time, and that's the thing we've got to remember.
Well, it's like when the Perseus was coming out, and people going, "Oh, it's coming in Invictus," and like me, you're going, "No," because that only started work halfway through last year. There's no way that can possibly be ready, right? And the minimum amount of time that was going to be ready was IAE. The minimum, and they are accelerating and pushing that thing through with all gusto because they know it's going to make them a shit ton of money. That's why that one's priority 1A.
I will let you know, Daft Digit. I did read it anyway, but thank you for letting people remember to put a question in.
Yep.
So
just from again, like it shows you. I want to do an episode, right? And it's not so much for you guys because I know it's really obvious to all of us, right? But I want to do an episode on why they are trying to raise so much money. And it essentially is breaking down that they need money for a marketing budget. How do you finish the game and you go look at anything based on marketing as Algared will already tell you. It's usually if you spent $1 million, you need another $1 million to market it. Right? They're not going to have that. Their whole thing is word of mouth, and their word of mouth now is for shit because everyone thinks this game's a scam. They need to get out there and put demos in hands. They need to put, like the word of mouth will sell this game, right? But it's not going to be like a typical game that hits like pre-orders like crazy and then it's a trickle down. This is going to be one of those games that does this. It's going to have a different, like it's going to be almost like an Among Us, you know what I mean? Where it'll be like a slow burn. But I have no doubt it will be popular because from everything I'm hearing, it is Half-Life 2-esque. So think of it like almost like you fly around in space and then go to these areas and do Half-Life things, almost a little bit like an open world Half-Life 2. And if that's what I'm hearing. Based on, think about what happened with Titanfall. That was very Half-Life-esque as well. I think this game will be very popular. And again, Titanfall 2 is a really good example of a game that didn't go so well because EA dropped it at a really shitty time. But man, it had a following. It actually turned out to be more popular than the two games that were dropped either side of it. I can't remember. I think one of them was Jedi Fallen Order and the other one was some soccer game or some stupid thing. And they ended up, over time, Titanfall 2 did more money wise, but it took a long time to get there because it was they just give a shit about it.
And we're certain. I don't think. My guess would be we're not going to see a spike in like a massive big spike in sales because generally CIG have sold a lot of those purchases that would have been that spike in sales. If they do get a spike in sales, it's huge.
I think they will get a spike in sales because when people actually get this game in their hands and they start to review it, like again, everything I saw in that opening cinematic is just insane. It's like it went for an hour and 20 minutes and it was almost a fully fledged feature film to open the game. Right? And that was the tutorial. That was engaging. That is the worst level we're going to see. Right? But there were clever things in there, like, so how do you teach someone to shoot a ship without flying in a ship? You put him in a turret. That made so much sense to me. It was a tutorial that made sense. And then what's the next? You can tell the next level is going to be something where you're at the academy and they're literally teaching you how to fly a ship. I guarantee you it's going to be something along those lines. Or the flight instructor is teaching you how to fly the ship, or whatever it is, right? Very cleverly thought out. I can see that they've built the tutorial automatically into the game. Writes itself, and that's a part of good game design. It's not like, oh, I have to do the tutorial. No, it is naturally built in with the gameplay. Cleverly done.
Yeah, look, I think it's clever. The only reason I don't think there'd be a massive boost in sales to start with is just because most people who want the game have already got the game.
I think you are
pre-sales. Although
I think you are completely wrong, and you do not understand the
I could be completely
potential.
Wrong because of the simple fact that they've even taken it off the store for the last couple of years. So
how many people do you know there's a huge thing right now with not pre-ordering games.
Yep.
Because we've been
how many people do we know who
so stung over the last 5 years or so. You know, people don't want to do that. They want to know the game is good, and this game has a bad reputation. But the game comes out and it's good, then people will buy, and
people will get on board. And the other thing
is,
most
casuals don't buy games unless other people tell them that they're good.
And how many people do we know when we were talking to them about Squadron 42 don't even know about Squadron 42 because it boggles my mind that people don't know about Squadron 42. You know, you talk to them and say, Squadron 42 is was the first one. It's like, well, what was this Squadron 42?
What was it? There was that year. Apparently, it was when it was in LA or whatever it was. And apparently, I got so many reports from the people in the VIP section that there was some girl there that stood up and turned around, and she was in the front row or some shit, and she was so loud. And I got reports from like 5 or 6 different people saying, "It's a campaign. We're getting a campaign. You fly your ass across the country to go to a convention and you don't know that there's a single player game coming? Like, that's more money than sense, bro."
That reminds me of going to The Lord of the Rings when it came out, and the first movie finished, and you had people saying, "Is that it?"
Yeah.
And just not understanding that it was a trilogy, and I get that.
Yeah.
So, next question is...
That's what I mean. Like we're gamers, right? But like, you got to realize that there are going to be people that are not gamers that will be drawn into games like this because of their story.
Yep. So, P.O. Knuckles has a question. They said, what would make you buy a Prowler? Except for the pricing, the guns, the shields, etc. Well, given that you've knocked out components, weapons, and price, the only thing that would make me buy a Prowler is the look.
I think I'd have to have a use for it too, right?
Yeah.
But again, like the price is not an issue if the use fits the. Well, look at the Reclaimer. Again, similar price point, but it's just got such a better use case. Even if it was smaller, right? So say the Reclaimer and the Prowler was the same size, as long as I'm using it to, like, I want to do salvage. I do not want a bespoke, hey, I can steal your shit off your ship with my Prowler Utility. I can do that with other ships. I don't need this one. It's just super niche. Same thing with a dropship. There are so many other dropships that, why would I spend $440 when I can literally get 4 Cutlass Blacks?
Look, I can see, even in salvage, I can see a value in this in terms of.
I agree, Algared. It is really good for salvaging. Very valuable materials that have been wasted. We should definitely salvage this shit.
When I've been salvaging, and I certainly go to the, if I salvage a what's that torpedo bomber? Not the Reliant, not the
Eclipse?
Claim,
Eclipse?
not the Retaliator, the Eclipse. Yeah. When I'm doing the Eclipse, once you break it apart, you get the part with the size 9 missiles in it. Can't put them into. They don't fit into a Vulture at all.
Yep.
Getting them into a Reclaimer is hard. But that Prowler cargo ship, the Utility, perfect for picking those up and taking them out and putting them in, and using the tractor beam and that. So using it alongside another salvage ship to pull off those valuable items and store them and take them away, I can see a value. I can see a purpose for it.
By the same token, though, I can literally do that in Ironclad, and the Ironclad is $435. It's $5 cheaper right now than the actual dropship Prowler, and I know it's $135 more expensive than this, but I'm getting so much more ship. You know what I mean? And they're both designed. Yeah, obviously one's more stealthy. You're not getting the stealth. But it's just uber niche, and that's its problem. When you make something uber niche,
I'm not saying it's not uber niche.
It's just not going to.
I'm not saying it's uber niche.
It's just not going to sell as well when it's.
I can. Yep, I can see a value for it. I can see a use for it. But again, the problem with it is if I'm in my reclaimer doing that, or I'm in my vulture doing that, I can't have that Prowler there. I need a second person to do that. And so that value that I can use it for kind of drops off.
First time chatter there, Algared.
I can see a value for it. Yep.
First time chatter.
First time chat. I can't read his name because it's red. But they say I don't help when Squadron 42. Sorry, it don't help when Squadron 42
Nano
has not been in the store for the last few years.
His name is Nano Pudding.
Nano Pudding. So Nano Pudding says it don't help when a Squadron 42 hasn't been in the store for a few years. Well, actually, that does help sales.
Well, Sandy actually said the reason they removed the Squadron 42 for the store is you actually got nothing when you gave your money. That's the whole reason they removed it. You were literally buying a JPEG. If you buy a ship,
and Sandy doesn't like that.
Yeah, you get a loaner or you get something like that. So yeah.
Sandy doesn't like if they're selling stuff and you're not getting anything. She wants you to get what you're paying for. And so Squadron 42, you weren't getting what you paid for. You weren't getting anything. And so take it off the store. So, but it does help when Squadron 42 is not in the store because that will actually build that spike of when it's released. So it goes counter to what I was thinking in terms of so many people have already got the game. The fact that it's not been in the store for so long will actually mean there is that spike because people will buy the game. So yeah. CO Beard, I think, or CO Bend. Very hard to read because smaller font and all the rest of it. But they say, don't you think updating older ships to gold standard would be a really good onboarding task? Yes. Instead of all these variants, yes. They could make these new ships and add. Why do you keep changing it? Each time I'm focused on the bit you're reading, and then you change it.
Stop. It does it on you went to read the white text. The white text is temporary. I didn't do that. It's automatic. Instead of all these ship variants, they could make a new hire and add the second entrance to the MSR. Well, sometimes it's priority, man. You got to understand how the priority works. And going back and just reworking on stuff that doesn't need it, you're better off to make something new. And that's why they make all these side variants, because it's a compromise. Rather than go back and just get them to work on stuff that doesn't really need to be worked on, it's a waste of time and resources. That's it to them, right? And then again, you look at an MSR as an example. Besides just adding an entrance, look at how much extra work has to go in it to just add that entrance. Now you take that and put on and make a whole new ship. You get an entrance and you get a whole bunch extra shit as well. That's why.
Now doing the gold pass on ships.
That's different.
That's different because that's bringing the ships not only up to.
That's when it's ready.
The standard, but it's also putting in the bits and pieces that are needed for the gameplay.
That's the other thing. There's things that need to be actively put back into the ship. Not all ships are ready to have that done because then that gameplay is not complete or ready to go in.
And some of them don't have the space for those components, so you actually got to expand the ship and make the ship slightly bigger, and that's probably a more complex task than giving someone a smaller ship to play around with and use as a base. So they could.
All right. Next one. This one. We have only got three. We've only got three questions left, so this is going to end real soon.
So do you think CIG will retroactively give all Pioneers LTI if it goes over 1,000 when it launches? It's currently $925.
I'm counting on it. I'm making that gamble. I am making that gamble. Yep. I picked one up for credit and I'm sitting on it and waiting.
The expectation is yes. They've done that in the past when a ship has gone above $1,000. They've retroactively given everyone who's got that ship LTI.
Look how long they're taking to build the ship too. They're talking about how complicated it is and all this type of things. That bodes well for the price increasing. Yep. And again, at $925, the minimal, the price increases have been between 10 to 20%. They have gone higher than that, right? Like the whole C and stuff like that. But generalistically speaking, it's 10 to 20%. Well, at 10%, that's $90 minimum. That's over $1,000. And again, with all the stuff they're talking about, how complicated this is and working all this shit out. Yeah. That's why I picked one up. Worst case scenario, I melt it and turn it back into credit. Right? But I was like, well, I think this will get LTI. I'm going to take that gamble.
No, it's the same reason why we recommend the Crucible and the Endeavour for the same reason. They're huge ships. And they're dirt cheap.
It's a little different because you can pick up a $10 upgrade. You can't do that with a Pioneer.
Yeah,
but that is the gamble I'm taking.
You can't do that with a Pioneer, but the Pioneer you've got to buy the ship.
Yeah. So if you've got the credit sitting around and you're happy to take that gamble, I'm just to make you feel confident. I'm doing the same thing. Oh yeah, you come and join me. We'll gamble together. Right.
Reaper 9767679 says, yep.
There you go.
Says, what do you think the chances are of CIG getting refining in-game this year?
I did talk about that. Was it Beijing? I think it was Beijing they mentioned that. I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, they said that it is something being worked on actively. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
So if I get it in, it puts those refinery ships that we've got.
Well, this is the thing.
Back burner.
Well, I don't think you need it for that. I think you put it into base building first.
Yeah.
And then go put the ship.
Yeah. Yeah, because you put a refinery, you build a refinery station on your base, and
yep.
Yeah.
Got to remember that now. Like
you could get
buildings are basically ships now, so you don't. This is the interesting thing. Once base building is, I think a lot of gameplay is going to come through bases way before we see it in buildings now, in ships. Because if you think about it, a building is a lot more modularized and a lot more standardized. So I think by doing that, you can get the gameplay in a building and then roll it out into ships. And I think it's actually going to speed things up, not slow it down, believe it or not.
Yeah, and the fact that we've got refining in stations, converting that to a building we build is not going to be that harder. And
well, look what they did with medical. They essentially copied the medical beds and put them into ships. It's exactly the same thing. You just copy it from a station and put it in a building.
Yep, and then copy it from a building and put it into a ship. Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Well, except that when you put it into a ship or you have it on a player's building, they said they want to have an active way to speed it up. So there is adding the actual gameplay to actively speed up the refining process. But again, once that's in, it's just a copy-paste job.
Is that just a matter of applying more power to reducing power from one area and putting it to another area?
You're asking me what the mini game is, and I don't know what the mini game is because they've never shown us.
And I'm just speculating and tossing ideas around and seeing what sticks. Whereas on a station, we can't do power management on stations at the moment. So.
The only mini gameplay I've kind of thought is a little bit like Satisfactory, how you got to link all the factories together, except it talks about having these different things that you've got to clear out, like different containers and stuff. So essentially, you're almost a little bit like alchemy. You're mixing different and combining different materials to get a final refining outcome.
Yep.
And if you go look at the refining process, you've got to tend to refine the material, scrape the shit off the top to get a high quality. And then you can start mixing, so like, you put zinc and bronze and all that, and you mix it and you get stronger materials and stuff like that. So there is a bit of alchemy based in it, so to speak.
Yeah. And I could see that is a type of gameplay I'd like to see them put in, where you're experimenting with mats and basing to. And we do know they talked about that. They talked about the need to be able to refine up the quality of stuff from, 80% to 100%, and 100% material would give you much stronger and better.
It gives you a little bit of science and exploration too, because if a new material comes out in game, algorithm,
Yeah.
and how do I take my algorithm
Yep.
and mix it with my other materials, and what can it do? Does it all of a sudden make something
does
that's
it create
weak and
excutus?
No. You're sabotaging me now. What I mean is, like, does it actually all of a sudden make something that was really brittle quite hard? Does it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because again, we talked about this. If
Does
you wanted to fix something,
does it make it good, or does it make it worse? Does it enhance it, or
you're sabotaging me again. If it takes something that is unbalanced, you can bring in a new material that fixes the balance issue in the game. You can actually bring in a new material that fixes things. So, we've found that there's a certain material that is unbalanced and everyone's just using that. All of a sudden, they bring in another material that makes it so all the other materials come up equal to it and stuff like that. They can actually use new materials as a gameplay balance mechanic, which I think is insanely clever. It becomes both lore accurate and I think it's very, very clever. So yeah.
Yep. Zombie Lord has a question. Linked with a statement. Zombie Lord says, as a person who adores the Prowler and always wishes it could carry cargo, this variant is perfect for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
At a cheaper price. And it's great. What would your ideal price for the Prowler and the new variant be? I think the Prowler needs to be about half the price. It currently is.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I literally said, I think I said in the buyer's guide somewhere, I said it on one of the last two videos we've done this week. I think it needs to be about $150 because it's essentially a medium ship that's got the price of a capital ship, and it just does not add up because, like, the way Algared and I often look at ships is function. We do not look at the form. You have to remove that when you're generalizing things for everybody. So I can sit there and go, this ship looks amazing, right? But when I look at it on paper, it's horseshit. It's utter horseshit when I look at it on paper.
Look amazing.
And it's the same, like, I can do the same thing with, like, all the ships that I say that I have problems with. Like, I look at an Origin ship and I can look at what's great about an Origin ship, but I can also look at an Origin ship and tell you what's absolutely horseshit about it, right? And by the same token, I can look at a ship that I absolutely love and I can tell you what's horseshit about it, right? You need to be able to separate yourself to do these generalistically reviews. And again, like I said, when normal little people, I shouldn't say little people, but when normal people I consider very casual, that I never hear them talk about ships like me and Algared do, and they're sitting there baffled going, why does this exist? That's how I know it's so badly. There's a disconnection in communication, and again, you've only got to watch the advert for this thing and watch them struggle to talk about it positively. When John Crew is literally stating the obvious of you can take the old skins and use it on the new one, no fucking duh. We've been able to do that on ships for ages. So they were scraping the absolute bottom of the barrel trying to find positive things to say about this ship. And the cringe factor of when Elwyn talks about, I really like the red lights on the bottom of this, it looks really aggressive. If you've got to talk about how you've lit the outside of this ship to make it look good, there's an issue. You should be telling me about what is actually good about the function of the ship. And they only do that right at the very end, and they do it about a gameplay feature that doesn't exist. That is really telling. They left it to the end, and it doesn't exist yet.
In fairness to Elwyn, I do recall, and I could be recalling wrong, but when the Prowler came out, he talked about the red lighting in the Prowler as well. So
I would
he's like you. He's got a thing for red.
I would have to go back and look at that, but I'm telling you right now, it doesn't have the same red effect on the Prowler as it does on this new one. I've had them both out, and it's only on the new one.
Yep. Look, I'm just saying.
But again, the red lights are cool is not a reason to buy a ship.
No. It's got to be a ship that appeals to you and talks to you and does something that you want. And if it doesn't do that, then you're a nut if you buy the ship, or if you've got more money than sense, like some of us.
All right, second last question. I'm getting back to bed early today. It's going to be great.
Crivitus has a question.
Yep.
Crivitus says, what do you think the next Drake ship will be after the Ironclad is released?
Probably going to be a golem variant. If I had to think about it. Cargo, like a cargo golem. With all the reworks and splittings off I've seen this year, I'll be really surprised if we don't see a golem variant. It just seems like a no-brainer to me. What do you think, Algared?
I wouldn't mind seeing another Drake fighter. So we've got the Buccaneer, but we don't really have any other fighters.
Actually, now you mention it, it could be this thing. Hang on. Give me a minute. The Flappy Bird. Whatever the fuck that is. This thing?
Yep. So if it's a Drake ship, yeah, it could be that.
Did that come up on screen? Yeah.
Yep.
If it's Drake.
So the Drake Flappy Bird, if it's Drake.
Yeah.
What's that?
Sorry?
Crusader Maximilian, you are a dead man.
Right, what did he say?
He says, question. How did you and Algared meet? So this is obviously to you. How did you and Algared meet? And have you been married long?
Too fucking long. I want a fucking divorce. Fuck this shit. I'm out. Algared and I actually first met at a PAX VIP event in 2014, but we didn't really know each other very well. We really met online through other people of our doing Inforunners. That's the first time we met. The first time I came on an episode, that's when I really met Algared and hated his guts ever since. That's me.
Yep, ditto. And then we just kept doing Inforunners, and then
and the other guys dropped off, and we
Inforunners.
Pretty much after that.
And so we've been stuck with each other ever since. So yeah.
It's not a friend. It's not a friendship either of us, I think, would have chose, but we put up with each other because we know it works. You know, and I do shit that
a friendship that now.
Yeah, we piss each other off to no end. But that's one of the reasons it worked. It's an odd couple, like a forced odd couple. But that's why it works, because we don't get on that well like we are very opposite people, you know. And we've learned that we work really well together, as in we give those differing opinions, you know.
But there are things we both enjoy games, board games, that type of stuff. So there are other things we share in common as well. But yeah, the first time we actually met, that we actually realised it was actually a deliberate meeting, was at a Bar Citizen, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah, in Sydney. Yeah,
Sydney.
I deliberately came up.
And then
obviously CitizenCon. Yeah. So we've only really kind of met in life. Really twice.
Oh, yeah. And we also played a board game. We did Witcher.
Yeah. But that was also when I came up for the bar Citizen, so it was the same visit. But yeah.
Was that the same weekend, was it?
Yeah. Same weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was like the day after.
I didn't think it was, but
it was the day after. Or was it the day before?
But yeah, so.
Yeah, it was the day after.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it was the day after. Yeah.
I
only came up for 2 days, I think it was. Came up for 2 days, but yeah. I think if I came up next time, General Desperado offered for me to let me stay at his place, so I might just stay there next time. All the running around places I didn't know, trains and shit. I cannot stand cities. I don't know how you guys put up with it.
Yeah.
It's such a rigmarole run around. Like you spend your whole life traveling, like it's almost like like they say in Deadpool, like where the commercial breaks are the small thing, but they're the good parts. It's the real life is the opposite, you know. So the good parts are really small, and it's when I'm at a place like where I am, a traffic jam here is 5 minutes. A traffic jam there is 5 hours. You know, like they're completely different places to live. But again,
I want to go to Jakarta then.
I remember when I kind of left school in 1999, and I went up to start studying video games and stuff like that. And I was at I think it was Griffith University, and And I remember there was some Swedish or Danish or whatever, someone from overseas, and so they're sitting down at like a table across from me or whatever, and they go, "Oh, it's so relaxing here. I can't believe how quiet and peaceful it is." And I'm sitting there going, "Holy shit, I'm run off my feet. You think this is peaceful?" Like, what? I was like, I was like, I never want to go to Europe. Like, it's just like, it sounds like the worst thing I can imagine. And I gotta be honest, Manchester was that. It was way more, just so many more people. Like,
Yeah.
and I really taught me to appreciate where I live in the world. We live in a really remote place, Algared, but then I live in such a remote place again. And I'm going to be honest, I like my quiet. I for the longest time, I always wanted the action life and all that, but having lived in a city and stuff like that, no, I'll take the quiet. And I've got all the modern conveniences. I can order something on Amazon and it's here in 2 days. I can get all the computer parts or everything I need, and I don't need all that fancy stuff. I will happily take the outside and touch grass whenever I feel like an approach, other than the go outside and find concrete and plastic trees. I can literally get in a car and drive 5 minutes and I'm in forest. I can. You can't do that other places. Like, it's it's very unappreciated in our time. And again, if I need to get somewhere, it takes me a day, but I can get to the other side of the world if I need to. Yeah. Modern conveniences.
Yep. But I've got to admit, I used to one of the things I liked about Wollongong when I was studying was it was a self-contained city. You could cut it off from everywhere else. It had the port, so you could still bring stuff in. You didn't need anywhere else. But it was also small and compact, and you could basically you'd walk through the area and you knew everybody. It was that type of nice, quiet life. You could do 100 meters or 200 meters, and you're kind of up in the escarpment where the bush was. It was just as opposed to Sydney, which was there.
I think most people here, as we all get older, you appreciate those finer things in life. Right? It's really hard to pick up a family and move and stuff like that. But I have people that I talk to that we've met through this game, and I can tell you right now, they need to get out of the rat race. And I know people that have done it too. I can think of one gentleman in particular that I've become really good friends with, and he's made that change, and I can already see his family and that reaping those benefits. It was, I always wondered when I was a kid living here, like, why anyone would live here. And then as I've become an adult, it's a great place to raise kids, but all the kids leave because they want that action lifestyle. But guess what? I'm seeing them all come back now as older adults. I'm running into people that I haven't seen in, like I left myself for a decade, right? And then I came back here. And I'm now seeing people that I haven't seen since high school, and I'm running into them and they've got kids, and it just fucking blows my mind. Like, I remember running into one guy and I had heard that he'd got married the last time I seen him, and we were like, I haven't seen you in 8 years. And I'm like, who's this? Oh, this is my 7-year-old daughter. And I'm like, this kid just appeared out of nowhere, because that's what it feels like, right? You get to that age where it's just like time as this, and it just you just realize so much you don't see of other people's lives. We all live in these little self-contained lives. Anyway,
Byron Jennings says, I thought Manchester was not that crowded, and Manchester didn't feel that crowded.
It just, me. But it like, to me, it was huge. Like, I just couldn't get it. Like, we would walk for 10 blocks, and it's just like 300-year-old building, or older than that, right? They were just like these massive buildings that were built out of stone that were just hundreds of years old. And I'm like, I'm just going, oh my God, everywhere I was going, I was loving it. They had this, that thing in the middle of the city that looked like the Colosseum. That was amazing to me. You just don't see shit like that where we're from. Now Sydney and Launceston, where I live, right? I'm in the third oldest city. He's in the first oldest city in Australia. They're probably the only three. There's only 3 or 4 cities like that that have really old architecture. So we are exceptions.
Yeah, and
but again, pretty rare. But it was everywhere in Manchester. Every fucking building was like that.
But even our buildings are only 200 years old.
Yeah.
Maybe even less. At best, they can be as like 220
Didn't you go to
years old.
You wanted to go to that Roman thing, but I was sick as a dog. What was it? You wanted to go to the Roman bar?
I did go to Roman baths down. I didn't get to the Roman ruins in Manchester.
Yeah.
But I did get to Bath in England.
I had to push him out a few times because we both got sick at different times. And and I said, look, I don't want to hold you back. You go. I'll just stay here and be sick as a dog.
But the buildings, we have buildings that are 200 years old in Australia at most.
Yeah,
you're looking at buildings that are 2,000 years old.
Yeah,
in Europe,
and that's the difference. You start to realize Europe, especially. Is the cradle of human civilization. Like it might have started in Africa, but because of the development and the buildings and the construction, they just don't have that construction in Africa. Yeah. We might have been born there or started there as humans, but now that is our central ecosystem, and that's where it all started. Yeah.
You look at the cathedrals you find, and they're often close to 700, 800, 900 years old, and that's mind-blowing. You look at our cathedrals in Sydney and they're like 180, 200 years old at most, and that's we don't have.
I'd put it like this. I would say Tasmania is similar to America's Alaska for an American. I think an American could understand that. Would you agree with that based on your knowledge of
the butt end of the world,
basically? But I have grown to not just accept it. I used to hate it when I was a kid. I used to hate how boring it got here. But now with all the modern conveniences and the internet, it doesn't matter anymore. All that's been taken away. So before it was like, well, you're out of sight, you're out of communication. Now it's just a location, and I think.
No, you're out of sight. You've got communication. It's quite a life. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I think we need to spread out as humans. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Humans are made for community, but we also like our space. So Zephyr's 4109809 says, any idea about what changes CIG has in the pipeline? About how power plants. I'll wait until you finish. Bouncing up and down. I'm
trying to
just leave it. I can read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry. If you just move that little window so I can read it again, that'll be fine.
I can't move the window. That's what I was trying to do.
No, the where you got the Go channel. Go.
I can't. That's what I was trying to do.
Okay.
And then you went off at me.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you were trying to open the question word board.
No.
Okay. So the question.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Good. Any idea what changes CIG has in the pipeline about how multiple power plants will work together? Currently, 2 power plants don't seem to generate twice the power of a single power plant.
Well, because you've also got a power drain, diminishing returns probably as well. I do remember from back in the day, the original plan was roughly 3 of one was meant to be almost, not quite, but almost equal a single of the one above.
Next size up.
So 3 size 2s is almost a size 3.
The other thing is that in some ships, that additional power plant is giving you redundancy. So it's not, you're knocking out one, you've still got your power, you've still got your power needs being met.
What was it? The Redeemer had 2 size 3s and they knocked it back to size 2s. But the advantage of that is you can now take the size 2s out and repair them, where size 3s were stuck where they were. But also, so you could technically carry more size 2s and swap them in if they break. But also there's now more of them, so there's redundancy. So there's a catch-22 there,
It's harder to knock out those power plants on the Redeemer.
Yeah, but they're not quite as strong.
And so you got back that limitation as well. So there's those two considerations: one, redundancy; one, how they're going to balance that power out. It would be nice to see the ships that are supposed to have the more power, see those two power plants increase that.
I think you'd agree with me, Algared, with all the changes we've seen. I don't think it's the last we'll see of changes like that. I think all ships will be going through. Like, if they came back to the Redeemer and all of a sudden said, "Oh, we're going to give it 7 size 2s," I wouldn't be surprised, or 5 size 2s for that matter. You know what I mean? Like, change them.
We know that they're making changes to get the ships where they want them to fit in terms of the pantheon of ships. We know that changes are going to happen. We know the ships will fit in the role that they want them to fit, whether it's 2 power plants, 3 power plants, 4 power plants. And so, I think that ships are going to change, and it's not going to be the first time. The flight models will change. The combat things will change. We always say, don't buy a ship now based on what it is. You've got to look at what it's going to be. And that's sometimes a hard thing to do as well.
It really is. It really is. And it's becoming... I thought it'd be... in ways it is coming easier, but then you get ships that come along that are super niche like this, and it just makes it really difficult. Because I want to be able to say, oh, every ship in Star Citizen is awesome and amazing. There's no way I can do that. It's just not possible.
No.
There is clearly always
when you get ships,
going to be ships that are just superior to others. So it is.
Yeah, and when you get a ship like the Prowler that comes out and it's so expensive for real world money, for actual cash, compared to ships that do the same job or a similar job, you're left scratching your head and going, why on earth does this exist?
Yeah.
And that's always been the problem with the Prowler. And you can't even make the claim. You can't even make the claim though that the Prowler is an alien ship. It's an alien design, but it's human built. It's been modernized with human components to make it work as well.
It goes back to what you said though about like earning big and earning down too. Like when you realize a reclaimer is cheaper than this, like you know, this is a luxury. It really is like Origin ships. They don't really have a lot of gameplay. It's the same thing here. This does not have a lot of gameplay, making it a really big luxury item. And again, in the economy that we're in globally, let's be honest, almost all the ships in this game are luxury items, because again, anything above that $60 US price tag, which is soon to become $80 US price tag, but you get what I mean with where they're going. The way prices are going up, that's the first thing that people pull back on is luxury items. It's not a necessity. And again, you've got in the economy we're in, this is just a really bad taste. You needed to add a lot more functionality to make that appealing.
But the one thing I will say about the Prowler is it is an absolutely gorgeous looking ship.
Yeah, it looks a lot like the other one they released a couple of years ago. Oh, wait.
Yeah, and it is still an absolutely gorgeous looking ship. I think I prefer the other one to this one, but...
Yeah. It's because she's fat, isn't it?
Lovely.
It's because she's fat, isn't it, Algared?
Yeah. She's fat. She's fat. Yeah, she's put on a few extra pounds. Reaper.
Yep.
Do you think the consolidated Outland ship that CIG has teased will be released at IAE?
No, I think it'll be released at CitizenCon. So the pattern for those ships has been CitizenCon. So to give an example, starter ships, we get those at IAE. And the last few years we've been getting medium ships. So MSR also was one of them, but technically it dropped into it started out its life out as a medium ship and became a large. But then if you look at things like Spirit, Zeus, they are all coming out around CitizenCon. Again, Starlancer technically came out there as well, but that is definitely a large ship. But again, it was kind of tailored at like meant to be a Connie. The Corsair was around that time as well. I'd have to go back and double check Corsair, but I think the Corsair was around since it might have been AIA actually. I have to double check, but that's where they tend to come. So I'm expecting it to be there because it's that they seem to be the best sellers so they work well on their own. And if you look at most medium ships, like they're going to be what most people in the game will fly, because they're the best thing you can kind of solo. But they also expand up slightly to 2 to 4 people type of thing. And again, I would possibly expect variants. I think it is really unlikely that we don't get variants from a medium ship, Algared. Like, I'm trying to think of a medium ship that doesn't have variants, and the only one that technically it does have one is the Apollo. But technically also now I sit there and think about it, the Apollo is actually the smallest large, so it actually falls out of that medium.
Yeah, I think
area.
the other one that, and it's probably a large ship, is actually the 600i, and because
that is a large. Yeah, it is. That's a very big large.
It's a large ship. It's a medium ship that's forced into a large.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the problem with all Origin ships. They act as the ship class below. Again, 400i is a really good example. So the 400i is technically a large, but it's got the features of a medium. That's the one you want to actually look at, not the 600i.
Yeah.
So it's almost
600i was brought to mind.
So the 400i is almost as big as a Connie, but it's got the features of like the Zeus and the Spirit.
Yeah, I remember when we were first looking at the 600i and the Connie, and I said, and we were looking at, because they're very basically similar shipping and ability, and I said the 600i dwarfs the Connie, and I remember at the time bringing it out and putting them both together and showing you guys, and you guys were shocked that the 600i, whenever you put them above or beside or each other, it hid the Connie behind it. Didn't matter which side you looked at it hid the 600, the Connie.
Again, they're flying safe rooms. Again, they're over-engineered for what they do, but you pay for that in size. So that
brings up the comment from Bowler. Bowler said, it's kind of crazy to think that the Redeemer has 2 size 3 power plants, while the 600i has 1 size 3 power plant. And then he goes, rip Origin redundancy. And it's that type of thing you kind of expect. But
again, I keep saying I want to see good ships from Origin. I think we'll see them when shops come along. I think that I probably will end up buying one. If I want to say that I own a ship from every manufacturer, I can't say that because there's not a single Origin ship that I can stand. They all have an issue for me. And again, that's my personal bias. But I always look at things from a good value proposition, and there's not a single one they are like an end game ship where when you've got an item in an MMO and you've got more money than sense, like it's a bling bling item. They are all bling bling. I do see that they have the safety factor, but again, they've got the massive drawback of that they are the size above what they are. You made me think forget what I was talking about beforehand with the medium ships. I did think of a single medium ship, the Mole. That is a single ship that doesn't have a variant yet. Don't worry, I'm sure they'll screw that up with a.
I'm sure they'll screw it up and put a salvage variant.
Yeah, a salvage variant that's a clone or a variant or whatever. Sorry. Yeah.
Look, I could see a salvage variant working, but for me, an Argo salvage ship would make more sense than an Argo mining ship.
Yeah. The prisoner. Yes, the 315p is probably the best Origin ship. I will give you that one, mate. 100%.
But yeah, I would say that to me, lore-wise, because Argo come out of that stevedore-ish thing, they came out of repairing the rail systems. Having a salvage ship makes more sense to me than the mining ship. But that's just me. But yeah. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Privileg's kind of linking up to that.
Go ahead.
Picking up that kind of idea that we had, we were talking components and the size of the components, and others says, what new component would you like to see next? I want batteries in.
Scanning. It's just scanning. Scanning is going to change the game in ways that you cannot possibly imagine. Well, you probably can't imagine if you've mentioned like me and Algared. But once scanning comes in, this will actually start feeling like a game. Because it's going to force things to happen that you have been sitting there. Like you see all those people that are just doing those little cargo runs and that's all they want to do. They won't be able to do that anymore. They'll have to get escorts. And once we have escorts, then instead of just having all these priority PvP players, you've got good guy PvP players and bad guy PvP. So that community will split and get smaller, and then you see where it's going. Like they're going to need protection, and so that you're going to have combat people that are actually taking care of people, and you're going to feel protected, and everyone they're going to want to see you succeed because they want to get paid from the resources that you're making, and so you're actually feeling like what you're doing is mattering at a lot better rate. But it all requires scanning. If you cannot if the bad guy can't find you, causes and consequences. It's cause and effect, and we don't have that cause and effect right now, and it requires scanning to pull that off. And until scanning, I've been saying this, man. I can't remember, but man, Algared, to you, I sound like a complete broken record. I feel like I've been saying this since like 2018, 2019, somewhere in there.
We've been saying scanning is important for a long time.
Yeah.
I'd probably say in terms of components,
but specifically that scanning is required to really kick off the game. I've been saying that for. I feel like I've been saying it for almost a decade, but anyway.
In terms of components working, I can see, and certainly with engineering coming, I can see batteries being really important because a battery gives you that reserve power. That's basically your reserve power supply. So if your power plant knocked out and you've got to repair that, you don't have power, you need your battery power to do that. So I can see the value of batteries working with engineering. But in terms of gameplay, yeah, I want to see scanning. Scanning is the thing that makes, but opens up so many things for game. It opens up salvage missions, humanitarian missions, help rescue missions.
Scanning is a component.
Looking for jump points.
You're trying to tell me scanning is not a component? It is a component. They have radar disher things, utility mounts. That's a component. I'm not making this up. I read it in a book. No, it's not a book. I read it on the internet.
But they're kind of there already. We've got empty boxes for our batteries.
Yeah, but you're gonna get the what is it? It's not the avionics. What is it? But there is an actual component that goes in the ship. That's the scanner. I just can't remember what it's called off the top of my head.
Yep. Sometimes they're just scanners. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I want to see scanning. I want to see the scanning gameplay. I don't just want to see the component put in. It's got to have a purpose. And I suppose in batteries, we don't have those yet, but they're basically like a backup power plant. So
I think for this year, I don't know if this falls on the component for you. You can tell me if it doesn't. But the new ammo types, I think that's going to be interesting because it's going to spice up combat for the first time in a long time.
I wouldn't say it's a component, but yes.
Well, it's ammo. You know where I'm going.
Yeah, it's a usable.
And then armor as well. I think that'll also spice up the combat quite a bit. And this patch, we're getting kind of fake armor going in, but that's a predecessor for real armor going in. So once armor, scanning, different ammo types, we're going to get some like that core gameplay that's been such a staple for so many years is going to really go to what they've been planning for literally over a decade. I think people are going to actually start to see the complexity that this game is wanting to offer, that they've had to move through the master modes and all that to get to. And I know a lot of the PV people are complaining because they wanted to play the game while it was being built. But I think as we move towards that end goal, I think people are going to start to realize why the other shit had to piss off, because you had to work through it to get to that, so get through the weeds to get to the lawn or whatever. I can't remember the saying. Sorry. There's a saying there. You know, the one where you got to get through the. I can't remember what it is.
I know the saying. I can't remember it word for word, but I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. Almost like you can't. I was going to say you can't see the forest for the trees, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if just as you're talking, the way you're talking about the components, they are essentially usables. So the things we take out, we put in, we upgrade them, they wear out, they break, we replace them. And so in that sense, I would say ammunition is a usable, and we can upgrade. So all of those things, the armor plates, they are usables. They get burned off. You have to replace them. The batteries or components get destroyed and you have to replace them or repair them. The scanners, all of those things we add to the frame of a ship are components in that sense. So yeah, all of them add to gameplay, and a lot of them you see coming in with engineering. You see them working with engineering or working with different aspects of the game. So yeah, I can see why batteries. I can see the ammo. I can see the I want to see it all. What I want to see next, there's too much to work out. And Crivitus has the last question in our chat, which is, what ship do you think we will see for Pirate Week? A pirate.
Maybe the Flappy Bird. Maybe it is the Flappy Bird coming from Pirate Week. I don't know.
Pirate Week.
This, believe it or not, this would have been a good ship. But the Prowler Utility would have been a good ship because of the pirated nature of stealing the cargo would have been good too. But yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was literally going to say that a pirate version of the Prowler.
It's hard to think of one that's actually needed, but like you go back and look at like ships that I would have done variants of, like a Corsair or another Cutlass or stuff like that. There's just other ships that I would have picked that obviously that they didn't pick, that they wanted. They seemed to pick ones that they thought that were going to sell well. So, the Saber Raven, because people wanted the Raven. They didn't pick the Saber. They picked the Raven.
No.
Right? Because
everyone wanted the Saber Raven.
Yeah. They know we like the Prowler, so they picked the Prowler and made variants. So they deliberately picked stuff to make variants of, so they would hope that they would sell. And it's just weird to me.
Have we ever had a ship for Pirate Week other than a skin?
Ship for Pirate Week other than a skin? No, usually you just get the skins. But again, there's definitely a ship coming that month because we're on that credence of one ship per month. So it's September, isn't it? Pirate Week is in September. It's also around
Google it and find out.
It's also around the ship showdown. I could be mistaken, but July, August, so not this month, but next month and the month after is the biggest lull in the entire game. We generally go down to, like, it's when we see our lowest views on the channel. And those people that come for those streams are those really hardcore dedicated people. And, that's when we see a lot of normal names disappear. And they don't come back until CitizenCon, essentially. So yeah. Just having a quick look on Twitch to see who we can raid here. I don't recognize anyone. Let me know in chat on Twitch if there's anyone specifically you would like to raid, if you are quick enough, before I find one myself. I do not recognize anyone besides one, but he's way big.
Right. So it seems that Pirate Week is around November.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, that's IAE, so why would you do a ship for that? I always thought it was in September, but maybe I'm wrong. All right, so I think I'm gonna raid Red Monster SC. He's we ran into him at CitizenCon. Raid.
Now, I always just thought it was a skin that we get for Pirate Week, and I go, if you want to do Drake, it's a Corsair pirate skin. But yeah, maybe do a whole series of red pirate skins for other ships as well.
Right, I'm gonna copy this back over to here. Right, so Red is, I think he's doing some Align on Mine stuff at the moment. So let's have a look. All right, so Twitch, go over there and show him some love, and Noah will be watching. And yeah, you guys have a good week and look forward to the Prowler Utility review. I think you've kind of heard a very big sneak peek of what's going to come though in that. Yeah, been a very quiet week. It's going to get quieter. That's just unfortunately how it goes. And it was great having you here though. And yeah, anything you want to add, Algared, before we send him on their way?
Nope. Just ask him why he's got so many atlases in his ship.
All right, Twitch, say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube, say goodbye to Twitch. And they're gone.
Bye,
All
Twitch.
right, let's have a quick listen in.
So that's Lord Bandicoot. Are you comfortable doing?
Yep.
Inforunners, thank you for the raid.
Oh yeah,
Appreciate
I'm
it.
around. I'm not the best PvP guy, but I'm pretty good PvE. So,
Yeah.
and I've spent a lot of time down in the path sites doing scavenging, so I know where everything is.
Okay.
Right. I think we'll love them and leave them there. They're in the middle of doing their cargo run. All right. With that, then, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and thank you to everyone who went the extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. Apologies for the glasses and the short stream this week. I am just in a myriad of pain right now, but hopefully that should all be abated by next week. Anything else you want to add, Algared, before we mosey on?
No, it's been a really quiet time, so
yeah.
Take care.
Nature of the beast. Yeah.
Look after your mother. All that type of stuff.
Yes. Believe it or not, sorry, there's another question there that just came in because I didn't turn the Q&A off. Zombie Lord says, I would like to see a bounty hunting variant of the Prowler. Yes, that is actually one that came up in our discussions, believe it or not.
Yep.
It would actually work really well for that. You essentially, where you have the drop seat things, you put pods there instead. And again, surprisingly, the Prowler Utility can do that. Believe it or not. It could, again, but they never thought to sell it as one. It would actually work really well as a bounty hunting variant. All right, with that then, he's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens. Have a good one.